Today we're going to talk with Karen Ellis Ogg, who has 6 generations that have lived or still living here. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
So, the first question I want to ask you is, do you have a Miss Fletcher story?
Yes, I do. I have quite a few, but the one that sticks in my mind the most is when I was, every year we made shut-in boxes and delivered them to different people in Canal Fulton. And so I didn't think anything of it, and she asked why she hadn't gotten a thank you from Mrs. Blank. And she said, who delivered that? And of course, I always told the truth. I raised my hand, and she said, well, what happened to it? I said, well, nobody was home, and Yippee and I ate it. And the football players went berserk laughing about that. And I got thrown out of class because it was chaos, and that was one of my stories.
Did you do an autobiography?
Yes, I did. Thank goodness. And my whole family has enjoyed my autobiography.
Well, that's great.
And Patty Walsh typed it for me the night before it was due. I was called a procrastinator.
I used to do that a lot too. So you were born in Canal Fulton. You were born in North Lawrence.
Yes, I was born in North Lawrence.
And then when did you move to Canal Fulton?
I was 9 months old.
9 months old.
Yeah, and the reason was my grandmother had a x-ray and it showed she had cancer. And she was like, I don't know how old, not very old, but old. And so we had to, my mom was the only girl, so she had to move in to take care of her. And she lived to be 96.
Now this is the house out on
Warwick Road, Milan.
Milan
Yeah,
Road.
they've changed it a couple of
Yeah.
times. It was West High, it was
Yeah.
that
It's been
house.
changed several times.
And then with the pit car was beside it. And then Bud Crow owned the part
Canal
of it.
Castings, yeah.
And Otis Clay had the other part.
Mhm.
I knew him. So that was fun.
You got railroad stories?
Yeah, a lot of railroad stories because we had a mark at the end of our house and the bums all came up, and my mom always, we raised chickens and she always had to fry them eggs. So
So you fed the bums.
fed the bums. And my grandma, one time a bum told her, please pray for me. And she said, I have too many people to pray for, you have to pray for yourself. So,
Did you ever hear from any of the bums
yes,
later in life?
yeah, one was a
Now that was
lawyer.
during the Depression?
That was right after the
Right
Depression.
after the Depression.
And people were traveling the railroads back and forth to get work, I suppose.
Mhm.
So anyhow, he was a lawyer and he thanked her for, thank goodness for feeding him because he was starving that day. He
Oh
stopped
my,
there.
how great.
Neat. And I imagine there were a lot more, but that's one that wrote her.
Did you walk to school?
Yes, every day. And home for lunch.
Oh wow.
And then back to school, and I think we got like a half hour for lunch, so you really had to eat fast if mom was ready for you. And then we walked back and then home at 4. Usually school was out at 4.
And you went to the first school that was built here.
Yes,
The
all 6
Fulton-
grades.
What was
Mhm.
it called?
Grade
Fultonian?
school, Canal Fulton Grade School, I think.
The Fultonian?
That's what the high school was called, but I
Yeah.
don't know what, I think it was just Canal Fulton
Mhm.
Elementary, I don't know.
Okay. So how many years did you go there?
6
6
and I can-
years.
Yeah, and my first grade, there were 54 students. You know, people complain now about 25 in a class.
Yeah.
Mrs. Knight had 54 first graders. The next year, the classes were split. That was the last year they only had 1 first grade. And I was a shining star, of course.
And then you went across the street to the high school?
After 6th grade. And we didn't have hot lunch because, like I say, we walked home for lunch. And then it must have been about 5th or 6th grade because we had to carry our lunch trays up those steps. And every day somebody spilled a lunch tray.
Oh, yeah. It was bound to happen.
Yes.
And the noise that it would make is awful.
And one funny story at that school, because the playground equipment was it wasn't safe, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember too many people getting hurt on it, but Jim Finneyfrock was sitting on the merry-go-round, and there was a pin, and that pin grabbed his pant legs and tore his pants off. And Finneyfrock's lived right across. He ran home, and he didn't come back. He was so embarrassed.
Oh my.
But that's kind of a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
Jim probably would not like me telling that, but he's
Did
not
you
here
ever-
anymore.
And then they built the new high school called Northwest,
Yeah,
and you went there.
yeah,
And you married your high school sweetheart,
yes. He
Steve
was my
Hawk.
second sweetheart, but I'm married. And the way I met him is I was going with a boy that went to Akron U, went to college. And there was a dance at the high school, and he stood me up. So I called my girlfriend and I said, let's go by ourselves. And I said, the first two guys that come across the dance floor, it's going to be ladies' choice. And I grabbed Steve and she grabbed Tom Otto. And we were a foursome for a long time. And that's how I met my husband.
and you married him, and you were married for how many years?
56 years.
And he just passed away recently.
Yes.
Mhm. And how many children do you have?
I have 3.
3?
And they all graduated from Northwest. And my mom and dad graduated from Canal Fall.
You did an autobiography for Miss Fletcher, and your mother also did an autobiography for her family. And there was a part there I would like for you to read.
Okay. There was a silent motion picture show in Canal Fulton. It was called The Fultonian. The presentation would be in front of a slide being projected of a picture followed by a slide of text. Of course, if one is too little to read, that person would have to sit beside someone who could. So there was always someone playing the piano, evidently to drown out the sound. The music of the piano was the indicator of the plot of the picture show. As the plot thickened, the music became louder and louder. The picture show always included a villain, a pretty girl, and of course the hero. It seemed the hero always went out with a pretty girl in the end. There was a dance hall between the river and the canal on the south side by the stone bridge. It was always fun on Saturday night to hear the orchestra and watch the dancing. Later, the dance hall was made into a skating rink, which I patronized. The cost was 10 cents. I would usually come up with this amount by asking Mom, Pop, or my good friend Doc Dissinger. I became a good skater and would carry my skates down to where the sidewalk began and skated to school. The skates clamped onto my shoes and I could skate all over town. I would skate down Cherry Street and turn the corner at the library, and we skated on the canal in the winter. Some would skate to Maslin and back. A bonfire would be built on the canal. Young and old alike would make a ring around the fire and sing songs while warming themselves. It seems the winters were colder then. They were young and old alike who would skate. I am glad I was born at a time when everybody mingled with each other and visited. Now we seem to sit in front of the television.
You. Now, that was your mother that wrote that. What kind of stories do you have about the canal?
I remember Jane Reed. She's one of the girls that started first grade with me. And we used to skate on the canal from her house, which is down on Canal Street. She lived down there. And then we would skate to the locks. But we had to be careful when you got close to the locks because the ice might not be real safe.
Because the water was always flowing down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we never fell in. I mean,
Thank heavens.
yeah. And I didn't wear a helmet or knee pads or...
Do you have a favorite Christmas story?
The one I remember the most, because I wanted a bike, And I prayed religiously every night for a year, and I didn't get a bike. So the next year, I prayed religiously every night, and I got my bike that year.
Took 2 years of prayers.
2 years of prayers. And then it was a December, and it did not thaw until the middle of February. I used to try to ride the bike in the house just to see how it felt before I could get outside. And I was 10. I was 10 when I got my bike. And that bike was a Schwinn. I rode all over Canal Fulton.
Yeah. Did you ride it in any of the parades?
Oh yeah, Decoration Day parades.
Yeah.
And I still call it Decoration Day.
Mhm.
And then I had a pony. So I decorated the pony, my brothers decorated the horses, and we did that. And then there was always carnivals in the summer, and I would give pony rides down at the carnivals.
Oh, wow, that was neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if my dog had puppies, we'd fill the wagon, and I'd take them all over town and see if anybody wanted a free puppy.
And you got rid of all of
I
them.
got rid of all. Of course, they weren't fixed, and they didn't have papers, and nobody cared.
Did you ever get stuck by the trains going back and forth to school?
No, because we knew we could maneuver the tracks pretty well.
Uh-huh.
But my brothers, they took, they could take 2 ties. I had to walk so fast to keep up with them.
Yeah.
And then I could walk on the rails.
Did you ever go across the swinging bridge?
No,
You never
But-
went across it?
no, my mom. That was my mom's story. Her sister lived on where the parking lot is now, across from the Catholic Church, was a house, and it was her sister. And my grandma used to send her over there on Saturday because she only took a bath once a week. And she used the swinging bridge to cross over to Annie's house, and Annie would give her a bath and wash her hair.
But was it still there when you were little?
No,
It
I
was
don't
gone.
remember
It was
it at all. I
gone.
just remember it from this.
Yeah,
And Mom telling me that.
yeah.
And I had been in Annie's house quite a few times, but it was just funny. She had one of those refrigerators with the ice in the bottom.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Oh, really neat stuff. Sundays in a small town would bring family and friends together in a special way. How did you spend your Sundays?
Well, Grandma and my sisters and I, we all went to church. It was a given.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked. Winter, snow, sleet, whatever. We walked to
You
church.
walked to church.
Yeah.
Which church did you attend?
Lutheran church
Lutheran
right there.
church
in
right there.
Canal Falls.
Okay. So often small town people have more than one job or career. Were your parents self-employed, work for a business, work on a farm, or were you employed in
My
any other way?
dad worked at Schifferly's farm, and that's, I think, Fox Lake Road. It's off at, anyhow, he worked at Schifferly's.
Uh-huh.
And when Mom and Dad first got married, that's where they lived, and Mom said that's who taught her to cook. She was a very good cook. And then on Sundays, a lot of people from Cleveland, my grandpa's brothers moved to Cleveland, and River Styx, and one in Mansfield, and a lot of times they'd come home for Decoration Day or Sundays.
So Sunday was a big
Sunday
deal
was,
day.
yeah. And I was lucky because my grandma butchered, and we ate all the pieces and parts. So I'm not funny about that. I had to add that because usually when I tell people that, they're like, oh, yuck. And I'm like, I remember doing Goldie Myers' hair. She lived in the house next to the Heritage Society house.
Mm-hmm.
And I did Goldie's hair, and she used to tell me, I loved going to your grandma's meat market. And I said, why, Goldie? Well, she always gave us a hot dog. She gave all the kids. And can you even imagine if somebody give you a raw hot dog today and you'd eat it? But she remembered that. Oh, we love Grandma. She always gave us a hot dog. And I'm like, okay.
When you were in high school, did you do sports or music or?
I was on the debate team, the speech team. I got a lot of medals for speech. I went to Columbus 3 times and I got 2nd place. But when Mrs. Gordon came, that was nice. She helped me a lot.
I like
did
Mrs. Gordon.
lot of speech, and then I was president of the library club, president of the Y teams. That's what I say. Miss Fletcher and I kind of butted heads, but I did a lot of work for her, and it worked out good because I got to go to Denison University 2 years for Y Team convention, and 1 year I got to go to Miami U for Latin Club convention. So I met a lot of people in this
Yeah.
area that I didn't know.
You used to babysit a lot too, didn't
You
you?
sure did. Didn't have money? I had to babysit.
Yeah.
But we have a cottage at the lake, and one day my dad came home and said, Karen, you're going to have to pack your clothes because you're going to go to Canada with Thelmas to babysit their kids. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And that's how I got to know Billy and Joni and Mark and Dana.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good experience, but Joni and I became best friends.
Yeah.
When she came from Venezuela, she took me to lunch, and that was to think. She said, "I just wanted to be a mother like you were a babysitter," and I'm like, "How did I do that?"
She's coming back.
Good.
Yeah, it won't be long. She'll be back in the States for good.
I know she was trying to sell her house
Yeah.
last I heard.
Yeah. It's sad down there.
Oh my gosh, that's why I don't want to be a socialist, and you can have that on the TV. That's my politics, no socialism.
Did your brothers play football?
Yes.
Did,
And my one brother, Dwayne, that we played at the park then, on those bleachers. We played down at the ballpark there. And he made a touchdown against Dover. Of course, I thought he was wonderful. And then I thought he was big. And I always told Steve, I can't wait till you meet my big brother. Well, he's only 5'10", and Steve was like 6'3".
Steve was, yes.
Steve didn't think he was too big.
You have is it your uncle that was a football coach?
Yes, he became
And his name is
Carl Schrader.
Schrader.
And he was coach at Maslin for the ends. And he went to Wittenberg, and he hopped the freight trains every summer, went out west and helped him do hay or whatever, bale, and that'd make it pay for his year at Wittenberg. Because my grandparents didn't give anything, and my parents didn't. It was that if you wanted it bad enough, you found a way.
Paid away.
And that's the way with
Paid away.
babysitting, you know.
Yeah.
I had to babysit. I babysat for years, and for Scott and Ruth and Jean, I babysat for their kids. In fact, I saw Scott the other day, and I asked him how Joni was, and she's okay.
Mm-hmm. She is. She's okay. I email her every once in a while. Did you have a car when you were in school?
No, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car, and my dad worked at Pitkin in 1958, Pitkin Ford, and I was supposed to have a demonstrator. Well, that fell through. So I took this 50 Ford that you could see the road through the rust, and I think the guy that gave me my test was almost afraid to get in the car, and he said, honey, if you can drive this, you can drive anything. And I passed.
What important event happened in Canal Fulton's history while you lived here?
I watched the steeple of the Catholic Church fall.
Wow.
Where our house is,
Yeah.
across the river in the canal, you could see a direct, and Mom got us all, well, I think there were just 3 of us then, because I don't know what year that was. In fact, I was going to ask somebody that. But anyhow, we went to their bedroom and sat, and we watched the steeple of the Catholic Church was on fire, and it fell, and we all prayed about that because we were hoping that nobody was hurt or anything.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And we were Lutheran, and we were praying for Catholics.
It was a different time back
It
then.
was a different
It
time.
really was.
I had a brother that married a Catholic, and I had a sister that married a Catholic, and Mom wouldn't sign for her, so I had to go to the priest, and I had to sign for my sister to get married. Different time. And there were boys that were Catholics that I would have liked to have dated, but nope, I didn't even push it.
Preservation of the Canal Fulton history is important for generations yet to come. 3 villages combined to form one at the site where the first settlement west of the Tuscaroras River in Stark County was founded. By taking part in this interview, it appears you feel the same. What influenced your decision to be a part of this project?
I just love Canal Fulton. Does that answer?
Yeah.
I loved everything about it. We had a swimming pool. We could skate at Smales Pond is where we skated at that time, and it was awesome. And
There was
we
always
had the
something to do.
library. What more could you ask for?
I know.
And I read every book I could get my hands on.
Nancy Drew.
And Bobbsey Twins.
Yeah.
And did the summer reading thing and everything. And my church was right there. I have an attendance pin for my church for 10 years as perfect attendance. Wow. I don't do that now.
Yeah, I love this town.
And
That's why I moved
then
back.
one of the things you asked was, how young was I with my first memory?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where my Uncle Glenn that was killed in the Second World War. And they had a funeral, and I think it was like 45, so I must have been 3 or 4. And that was the first time I saw my dad cry. And that's my earliest memory. And you know how that would leave
Oh, yeah.
on your mind, and that I've never forgotten that.
That was a big impression.
Yeah,
Good child.
and that was at Arnold Lynch, just where he was buried. But I thought that was, and then I know every once in a while they find dog tags because he was a navigator in an airplane over Germany, and of course there was nothing left. And there were 2 boys from North Lawrence killed, the Hansel boy and my Uncle Glenn. And he was a navigator, and he was a little guy, so he was in the middle of the plane. I guess you have to, there's a certain
Yeah.
place for the navigator to sit. But he was a sophomore at Ohio State. And I have a letter there that what he was going to do when he
When he
graduated.
Oh. Did you have a favorite hangout place?
Well, it used to be Ketter's, and then it was Ettling's. That's where but I never had any money.
It
So-
made a big difference.
It made a difference.
Yeah.
I couldn't buy a Coke. If Armin's were given their potato chips, that was a big treat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd put them in anything I had, you know.
Yeah.
And if I bought a stick of licorice for a penny, I could make it the whole way home and they'd think I had food, you know, I was eating right along with it. And then every once in a while I'd stop at the feed mill because George Kettler's daughter went to school with me and he'd give me a gumball. But I had to give him a kiss. And my goodness, heaven forbid anybody would think I got
Yeah.
a gumball for giving George
Yeah.
Kettler. George just said, don't tell anybody that story. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
think anything of it.
You would think more of it today than you would back then. Did you ever go to Moore's Soda Bar?
Oh, yeah, no, it was Falmouth.
Yeah, Falmouth first. and then
Falmouth
Moore's.
first, and when I first was growing up, we'd go to Falmouth, and then Art McGrew had a nice soda bar. We liked his ice cream sodas.
Uh-huh. Where was that one at?
That was between the pool room and Velma's. Was where
Okay.
the drugstore was.
Okay.
And my brothers hung out at the Century Bar and at the pool room. And Roy was in the pool room the night it was raided.
Oh,
And his
boy.
picture was in the paper, but he was out front. He wasn't in the back where the bad stuff was.
Where the
That's what he
stuff
told me,
going on.
I don't know. So that was kind of exciting,
Yeah,
especially when I worked for Filmus.
yeah. That's for sure.
And it wasn't long after that I didn't work for him anymore. Mom and Dad, then I worked for Gene and Ruth.
Uh-huh.
And I did Rhodes's. Who all did I babysit for? Oh my God, everybody.
Well, we made copies of your autobiography and your mother's autobiography.
Oh, good.
Some fascinating reading, and it will be made available to anyone that would like to read it. At the Heritage Society will have it on file. So generations from now, maybe one of your great-great-grandkids will be able to come and watch you.
Yeah. Is that
That'd be
funny?
great. I want to thank you for your interview today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Can I show you a coat that my Aunt Delta made me? Because Walter was the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And Delta bought had Rupe's diamond 5 and 10 cent store.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my aunt. And then that was kind of neat that because everybody loved that 5 and 10. You
Yeah.
could buy everything there. And then my one little sister, when we had a carnival in Canal Falls, they had a beauty contest for little kids, and she won. Kathy.
Kathy did?
Kathy. So
Kathy was
and
a
then I
very
have
pretty
two
girl.
friends that I still run around with. It's Carol Roop and Jane Reed.
I think we have Jane Reed on our list to interview.
Yeah, she probably won't do it. She probably wants me to do it. No, she'll correct me. I gotta show you something I think is cute.
Yeah, the Roops are my family too. The Snyders. Yeah.
This is a coat that Delta made me.
Oh my
cool.
gosh.
And this is Dick Wygand, and this is Buddy Gay, and this is Jim Kurtz and Sally Kurtz, and of course Roy Rogers and Dale Evans were the big thing. And here's Walt's name, and here's Delta, and here's Sis, which is Leela Joy,
Yeah.
and Mary Ann and Roy, and Bing Crosby. And this is my cousin Tim, and this is my brother Dwayne, and this is Butchie and Barb from North Lawrence, my cousin, my dad, my mom, and my name. That cute?
Actually, can you
Yeah,
go
come
over there
and do that
and-
again
and-
so it's on camera.
I just thought it was cute.
Yeah,
that's
it's
My
I love
grandkids
it.
want to hang it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always cheered for Canal Fulton, and some of the cheers you can't even repeat.
Yeah.
And this is Jim Kurtz, and this is Dick Wygand, and this is Buddy Gay, and this is Sally Schrader. And this is Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, which was, of course, the big thing. And this is Walt Schrader. And then I had another uncle that had a concrete brick place where the Nazarene Church is. That was Elmer Schrader.
Okay.
And then this is Mary Ann Schrader, Sis Schrader. This is my brother Roy, my brother Dwayne. And then Bing Crosby was who Uncle Walt and I listened to. And this is Tim, and this is Poot, we called her. It's Ruth Ann Minx.
Oh, okay.
And this is Butch and Barb and Dad and Mom. I just think it's cute.
Well, that's adorable. I love the keep out private. That is really neat. You had
And then I had an Uncle George that had the meat market in
the
Canal
meat
Fulton
market,
for a long
and then
time.
you had an uncle that was mayor.
Yeah, Walter. Walter
Walter.
Schrader. He was the mayor of Canal
Two-term.
Fulton. Yeah.
Two-term
mhm,
mayor,
two-term,
Canal
yeah.
Fulton, yeah. And on the fire department?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So they all helped.
So the main names in your family is
Schrader.
Schrader,
And then my Reelings,
Rulings.
and then Sudrow, excuse me. Sudrows were my grandma's sister, Barbara, that lives where Clark Saylor lived on my island.
Mhm.
They owned that farm. But my grandma owned 6 houses in Canal Fulton, and she was a charter member of the bank. And one of the things that they liked about her is she was the only woman they knew that could lift a side of beef.
And her name was,
Reeling, her
Okay, Reeling.
maiden name, and then she married Fred Schrader.
okay.
But she came from Germany. Like I said, Mrs. Soren sponsored her.
Mm-hmm.
And she spent her first night in Central Park, off the boat. She came down in steerage, and she'd never seen a black person. And that night in Central Park, she saw her first black person, and she slept on the park bench.
Oh, wow. Now, steerage, when they come in on steerage,
They're down with the
down in-
animals.
Yeah.
And of course, she was used to animals, and then I guess she could kill one if she wanted. But
They never got to come up out of the boat, did they?
no,
Mm-mm.
never
The whole way over.
the whole way over. And I don't know how long it took her. Now, see, those are questions. Why didn't I ask her that?
Mhm.
What was it like in the series? Why didn't I ask her?
That's why we need to do this today.
Yeah, so you can do, you know.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was, in their house in Germany, I do have a picture of it. The animals were in the bottom, and then the living area was above, and the gardens were in a different part of town, and she had to walk to hoe the garden. And I always thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And I had a cousin that went back to Germany, found the house still standing, the church that she attended, because I thought we always thought it'd get bombed during the war.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Great. That's
So
wonderful.
there were some stories she told. She came here and she had two kids, and she went back to Germany and brought all her brothers and sisters and her dad over. And I think it says in there that was the happiest 2 years of his life.
Yeah.
Was when he came here.
Came to America.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
And they didn't come through Ellis Island. They came through Maryland. I know
Yeah.
she said that, but I don't know.
Well, I know your mother said that the time that she grew up here in Canal Fulton was the happiest time. She was glad she grew up in that time.
And I repeat that.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I moved here in 1957.
Perfect.
It was the greatest time I ever had.
Yeah, right.
I loved Canal Fulton. It just had everything that we needed. Well, I want to thank you for telling your story. Maybe down the road we might interview again. You might have something else you would like to tell us or contribute. Maybe a whole group of us will get together.
Yeah,
and
that would be
chit-chat.
fun. That would
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.